Hey, how you doing? This is Gary Green from the Gary Green Show. I've been thinking all week about racism. It's become a really taboo subject because people seem to think that if you're not of a certain persuasion, you can't have an opinion on racism. Then I started thinking about all the other isms and phobias that have come along in the past, say, 8 years, 9 years. And I started thinking to myself, how does this work exactly? How does one get labeled a racist or homophobe or an Islamophobe or any of these other phobes or isms? How do you get labels? Well, it used to be that you would go and burn somebody's house down or beat somebody to a pulp or kill somebody, whatever. But nowadays, all it is, the very least you have to do is disagree with something. That's it. This is what our world has evolved into. So we've gone from having to do something really big to be labeled, to now the very act of disagreeing or saying something that others may find inflammatory in some way makes you one of these: a racist, a homophobe, a Islamophobe, a transphobe, whatever. You probably already know all these phobes and whatever. So anyway, I started thinking about how the hell could we end all this crap? Because it's crap. It really is. And then I realized you have to divide it into two separate parts. Okay? Legitimate, state-sanctioned bigotry or racism, and then actual bigotry. Okay. The first one we can do a lot about. The second one, there's always going to be some, but if we take care of the first, the second one will cull itself. So the first one is legitimate, state-sanctioned racism, sexism, whatever. Okay? And what I mean by that is the government or a body in power is forcing this particular viewpoint on you. And the second one is a personal viewpoint, right? So there's always going to be bigots. There's always going to be people that don't like something. You can't change that. You can win hearts and minds, but we got to start with the first one in order to complete the second one. So how do we approach the first one? First, you have to acknowledge that this has been built in since the 40s. Built in. Democrats in the 40s, moving into the 50s, did not want blacks to succeed. Didn't want it. If blacks succeeded, that would mean that they would lose a massive portion of their voter base. But how did they get that voter base? It was Republicans that got them freed. 300,000 white, mostly white Republicans went and fought for slaves' freedom. So how did the vote go from Republicans over to Democrats? Well, it's simple. If you know your history, it's simple. If not, you've probably heard something funky that doesn't make any sense. Like the classic, the Democrats and the Republicans flipped parties. Yes, they just took their entire platform and flipped it upside down one day because why not? It doesn't make any sense. So that argument is bullshit. I assure you, it's bullshit. Now, let's get on to reality. LBJ decided that blacks would be better back in chains. No joke. But he couldn't put them in real physical chains, right? Because slavery was over. The civil rights movement was well underway. He couldn't just throw them in chains. That wouldn't work. So how does a Democrat put blacks back in chains and get them to appreciate it? Get them to go, hey, I like what you did so much, I'm going to vote for you. Well, he did something kind of genius. He decided to create a welfare state in which you will get exactly what you need. Nothing more. All you have to do is continue to vote them into office and throttle your ambition to the bare minimum. So as long as you're not successful, you're not a crazy proud family that works hard, all that stuff, he will give you exactly what you need in order to live to keep voting for them. They switched parties with the Republicans, right? Because the Republicans are evil. But here's the thing. There is a difference between an equal outcome society and an equal society. Republicans believe in an equal society, a colorblind society, if you will. Which is to say that we believe that color, sex, sexual orientation, all those things bear no significant interest in your ability to perform duties, right? So your labor is just as valid regardless of what skin color you have or who you like to have sex with, who you worship. Your labor is just as valuable. And that's how we look at it. That's why the idea of a colorblind society is awesome. Because we don't care about all your personal things. We don't care. It's what you do that we care about. But that narrative falls apart because Democrats have convinced you, have convinced a lot of people, that each of these individual groups are essentially more important than the next. And at the very bottom rung is what they call the majority. Now, what is the majority? What is the people that are powerful? White males. Let's end racism by attacking white males. Doesn't make any sense. If you want to end racism, you have to stop. You have to stop all of it. The other thing they like to do is hold everybody to a different standard. So if you're white and you go commit crimes, what the hell's wrong with you? You're a white guy and you're going and committing crimes. Let's go after this guy tooth and nail, because why is he doing this? This is wrong. But if you're a black guy from the ghetto, which they created, and you commit crimes, whoa. We need to back up here. The legal system is completely rigged going after the black man. That doesn't make any sense. If you get 20 white protesters standing on the sidewalk, they're going to get harassed like crazy. But if you get 1,000 black protesters completely rioting and destroying an entire city, that they're trying to seek justice. So here's the thing. I'm not against black people. I'm not against anybody. What I'm against is the idea that we need to section ourselves off day and night. Make sure we're a part of this group and this group and this group and this group, and we support this group and this group. These groups are tearing this entire country apart. Before any of these groups mean anything, we need to be Americans. Americans need to be the biggest group. All these little groups are nothing more than people trying to make each other feel good about whatever their particular group is. If you're black, you're part of the black minority, right? So in order for you to fit in with that particular group, you have to behave as if you're a part of that group. And if you step outside of those boundaries, then you're called a whole bunch of names or targeted. Look at people like Herman Cain or Alan West. Think about the horrible things they've been called. If you're successful, suddenly you're an Uncle Tom. How does that work? If you manage to do things that nobody else can do, you're garbage, right? You're not really black because you've done things that normal black people don't do. When did we just flat out decide black people aren't normal people? Hispanic people aren't normal people? When did we decide this? When did we decide that gays aren't normal people? Or, well, transgender people aren't normal people? When did we decide that because of the color of somebody's skin, that they needed to be treated specially and with kid gloves to ensure that they can actually do something? I know a lot of black people, and the vast majority of the ones I know are successful, driven, motivated. They have families. Why can't the world be like that? Why can't the world just say, hey, you know what? Why are we intentionally keeping ourselves down when we could be up doing what everybody else is doing? And we don't need somebody to give us a handout to make it happen. If you want to help blacks and everybody else, you've got to stop playing the game of we're not equal. From the day we're born, we're equal. From the day we're born. And every single time somebody denies that, every single time they say, hey, you know what, you're black, so even though you scored 20% lower than that white guy, we're going to put you in college instead because you're black and he's white. It doesn't make any sense. I'm sure at one point during the civil rights movement, it made sense, right? Because people were being reluctant to start moving on. But it's 2015 now. It's 2015 and the Democrats are still playing the same game, which is we need to patronize the black people. And we are willing to make ourselves look like shit in order to prove to them that we like them more than we like us. Republicans need to get honest. They need to get open. Because I don't know any Republicans that don't believe this. That the only way we can actually grow as a nation is if we cut this snake's head off. If we end the idea of institutionalized racism. And I'm not talking about jails. Because you know what? If you commit a crime, you go to jail. Now, whether it's supposed to be a crime or not, that's a debate for another day. But the fact is, if the law is on the books and you commit the crime, you go to jail. It's exactly what I was bitching about yesterday. If they ban guns, there's going to be a whole lot of people going to jail. They were innocent the day before. If everybody was held to the same standard, just like we have the same rights, if they didn't have to constantly embed this dialogue of, well, blacks are in the minority, therefore we need to make sure that we give them the extra opportunities to do what they need to do. It's 2015. The opportunities are everywhere. People don't hire based on race anymore. They barely hire based on sex. And the only reason they would hire based on sex is because certain jobs are incredibly dangerous. and incredibly physically intensive. Now, maybe we need to change the fight into something that actually works. Maybe instead of trying to infight between the different groups, we come together and say, you know what? We are created equal. And it's what we do after the day we're created that decides where we are, who we are, what we are. You don't need the government's approval to succeed. If you want to live, really live, you can't do it under the thumb of somebody who says, this is what you get and nothing more, now vote for me. Can't do it. I want to live in a world before I die in which people are truly judged by their merit and the content of their character, not the color of their skin, not who they have sex with. I don't care about any of those things. The people I choose to associate with are people of high character, high moral fiber. People that I would trust with everything I have. And I want the country to be majority those kind of people. And those kind of people come from all different races and creeds. I don't want to see people at the bottom of the barrel anymore. I don't. It upsets me. Because I don't think anybody deserves to be down there. So how do we get there? Well, the first thing we have to do is stop pointing fingers at each other, at different groups. We have to stop. You can't make black people out to be the bad guy. You can't make white people out to be the bad guy, so on and so forth. It doesn't work. You can't get mad at somebody because they're successful and you're not. That's another one of these things that's been drummed up by progressives. Well, if there is a successful guy and there is a poor guy, then we need to steal from the successful guy to give to the poor guy to get more votes for the Democratic Party. That's reality. What do you think Bernie Sanders' entire platform is based on? Stealing from one person to give to another person so he can continue to get votes. That's it. He can't balance the budget. He's going to put us in debt double what we're in now, which is double what we were in when Bush was in office. Now, do you want to end racism? Really end it for good. We can be further ahead as a community than the rest of the world. And all we would have to do is hold each other to the same standards. That's it. One standard. American. You do what you need to do. There is no limit. If you're smart, if you've got a talent, whatever, you exploit the hell out of that talent. That's your labor. You own that. Nobody can tell you what to do with it. If you choose to work for somebody else and work your way up the ladder, that's awesome. If you choose to work 20 hours a week and live in squalor, that's your decision. If you choose to start your own business or become an entertainer, whatever, that's on you. And that's awesome. And that's the beautiful thing about America, that none of you are taking advantage of. Too busy arguing back and forth, saying what group is more disenfranchised than the other, when you could be taking advantage of the honest-to-God American dream. Why can't we just do that? Why does it have to be infighting? If you want to end racism, hold everybody to the same standard. Hold yourself to a higher standard. And I don't care if you're in the ghetto or if you're sitting in a $20 million mansion. I don't care. You have the ability to do better, just like I have the ability to do better. We have to do better as a nation. Because until we all decide that our little groups mean nothing, Until we all decide that we're not going to go to the government every time we want somebody to fix something, they fix nothing. They rig. They don't fix. They rigged black people into the ghetto. And they demonized black people that succeed. It's their fault. Stop listening to them and do what you're supposed to do. Be successful. Be creative. Be devoted and motivated. Make it happen. Because I can't do it for you. All I can do is propose the tools. It's going to take everybody else to put it all together and make it work. Let's make this happen, because I want my kid to grow up in a world where he doesn't have to worry about offending somebody every 5 minutes. How cool would that be? So until tomorrow, this is the Gary Green Show. Guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. God bless you. God bless America.